Right. Okay. Facebook Live. This is attempt number 3. So, like they said, third time, third time lucky. Now, what happened was, um, Helen tried to get on, so I'm gonna try and let me just see if I can invite her. Right. So, I've invited, I've invited Helen onto this, and hopefully, this time it will work. So this is classic Mercury retrograde, folks. Right, invite. Bring it. Yes, add. Will it work?
Yes.
Yes. Right. Ah. All right. Third time lucky. Um, wish us luck, folks.
Okay.
Right. I'm putting my phone in my tripod. God, you can only see half my face at the moment. How are you able to get that so centered? 1 minute. Maybe it's because.
You look centered to me, so I think it's just you.
Oh,
But
really? Okay. Well,
yeah. I think you're good.
something's going on there.
I'm
Right.
gonna have to
Okay.
do
Let's.
handheld. It won't do it vertically for me.
Indeed. And what is so funny is because I can see you on the laptop with our current Zoom meeting with no sound. But anyway, we'll just leave it there. I'm not going to adjust anything because I daren't. Okay, so we are live. If anyone is able to give us a thumbs up, just to be sure that you can hear us and that you can see us, just so we know. So anyone that is watching, just do a thumbs up or some kind of something, so we know that we are live. And I mean, we are live, but just so that we can be seen. Oh my God, my diary is just giving me these kind of pop-ups and stuff like that. Anyway, can anyone give us a thumbs up just to be on the safe side?
Yeah, there we go.
Yes,
Brilliant.
right. Yes, thank you, Claire. Mwah! You're a star, honey. Right, okay. So first of all, this is a welcome. So this is happening Facebook Live, and
Yep.
later we're going to upload this to YouTube. Helen and I have had an absolute nightmare to get here, but we are here. And so first of all, I just want to say a huge thank you, a huge gratitude to all my new subscribers on YouTube. It has been extraordinary. It's been blowing up, and it's been a challenge to keep up, but what a wonderful challenge to have. So first of all, thank you. And I'm so honored and grateful for that. But I wanted to take this opportunity to introduce someone who is a very special person, a very dear friend of mine that we go back a while, don't we? Long
That
time, long
that
time.
15
And
years.
yes, 15 years. And we used to work together, all sorts of jobs and stuff like that. And of course, as time has gone on, we have matured into ourselves. And so this is Helen Miller. Helen is a wonderful actor, and she is also a cacao ceremony practitioner and shaman. She's very modest about it, but let me tell you, this lady has been to the arse crack of the Amazon various different times. She's done all sorts of ceremonies and has had profound insights. And we reconnected recently after a period of just not seeing each other for a while, but being in touch via YouTube, etc. And we were catching up, and Helen was telling me about her amazing story. Now, this is one of the main reasons why I think this is relevant and pertinent, particularly to my new subscribers who also, as well, a lot of people came over from Diane's tarot or Diane Aquarius. I want to say a big thank you to you, Diane. It's been wonderful. And again, what an act of generosity. And what we've been discussing, of course, is 2020 as a whole. As we know, it has been an absolute shocker so far. And guess what? There are a few more surprises. So this roller coaster is not over just yet. Now, one of the things we talked about on when I was collaborating on Diane's channel, we were talking about the US elections, and I went into the astrology, the charts, the USA chart, and I overlaid Donald Trump's chart, Joe Biden's chart and Kamala Harris. And I basically gave the various different insights there, and we were comparing on tarot. But one thing that has come up, there's been a tremendous amount of difficulty and trauma associated with 2020, as the world has, literally the whole world has gone through this tumultuous time. And particularly, of course, our hearts and compassion go out to everyone around the world who may have lost people, but also as well, we see that the numbers are going up everywhere, particularly in America. So this comes in with Helen, where Helen specializes in healing. And we are going to discuss that process, and it's going to be divided down into sections. So the first area we're going to talk about is to do with trust. So trust yourself and know the universe has your back. And this is a new course that that Helen is doing, by the way, which you can do remotely via Facebook. I will once say again.
Via Zoom.
Brilliant. So it'd be via Zoom live in session, and if it's a 6-week course, is that correct?
Yeah, so it'll be every Monday night, and if you can't make it live, you get the replay. And then throughout the week, there's homework to do from that. Well, because each Monday night we'll be having a ceremony, and then you can have a support group throughout that week. So people can feed back in. It's very limited numbers who can do it, so that we really create that community. And I'd just like to add in what you were saying about healing, and essentially everybody heals themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I have just gone through a lot over the last 7 years and through many different modalities, and so my toolkit is really full, and I also have a very strong Buddhist practice. So what I'm able to offer are lots of tools, support and structure of things that have worked for me, so that you can choose like different ways to work with different things. And this year was crazy for me even before we hit March. So I'm coming from basically I was able to realize how quickly I could process things because of everything I'd gone through. So I know it works. It does what it says on the tin. And it's really varied, because you know certain practices aren't for everybody, so I've got a different way to come at things.
And I thought this would be a wonderful and unique opportunity for people to discover someone that really has kind of gone through so many different healing modalities, and Helen's had some extraordinary experiences, which I'm sure that she would actually share on her 6-week course. And why this is so pertinent and relevant is because the whole world and so much of society is going through a lot of difficulty, a lot of trauma right now. Many people, of course, would have lost loved ones, or many people may have lost people because the hospitals were busy doing other stuff. It's nobody's fault, but such has been the level. There's been a tremendous amount of overwhelm. Many people are suffering because of loneliness, because of isolation, being stuck indoors, not being able to connect with others, with our loved ones. And of course, this is, causes, you know, a lot of psychological and emotional upset. So if we think of it in this way, in terms of with Diane's tarot, that was very much, I refer to tarot as the reporter on the ground, reporting the story as it unfolds. On my side, with the astrology, it helps people understand why these things are happening as they are, and what the predominant energies and themes are for life on Earth. And then drawing that in with Helen. Helen is here to help ameliorate and essentially heal some of those conflicts and difficulties that have been coming up in a lot of people's lives, because astrology is one thing in terms of helping us understand what's going on, but we all need a tool set. And some of us have more tools than others, or none at all. So there is a lot going on. And what we're going to do is we're going to, Helen's course is divided into sections. So the first section, as I mentioned earlier, is about trust. So this is about trusting yourself and knowing the universe has your back. Then the other one we'll be talking about is grief. Where are you ready to release what's holding you back? The third pillar would be power, understanding what that means for you, reclaiming where it's been lost, and getting comfortable with owning yours. That's very relevant. Very relevant. Then we're going to be talking about abundance. So recognizing your worth and understanding the energies of giving and receiving. And then we'll be looking at healing, the body and your relationship with your body. And then finally, love and joy. So gratitude and high vibes as we appreciate all that we are and plant seeds for what is to come as we move towards December 21st, because we have a solstice, don't we?
Yeah.
So Helen, let's talk a little bit about this grand conjunction, which is coming up on December 21st, 2020. We have Jupiter and Saturn coming together. And what does that mean for you? And yeah, go ahead.
Okay, great. So thank you for that. I mean, I use astrology within my work and tarot, but not as magnificently or as in depth as Hoagie does, and he's done my chart. And I tell you what, having always followed Western astrology, when I actually looked at it through the Vedic eyes, so much more was bang on. And so anybody out there who's looking to get an insight into what's happening in their life and why, I recommend that you check out Hoagie's work. He's very brilliant and he's got his magnificent personality to boot. So he helps you through it. Yeah, darling. So the reason that I've put this course together, and I'm running it for the Psychedelic Society, who asked me to design something for them. So that was really exciting for me to have a collaboration there. And what it essentially, the next 4 to 10 years are going to be extraordinary. This is the beginning of a new way of being on the planet as we move more into the age of Aquarius, as I'm sure you understand, and it's going to require a lot of the, talking about tarot, like the Tower card, a lot of things to fall away. We're just sort of at the we're really starting to see that now, and it's going to carry on more, especially the main pillars of society. So I think politics, education, the prison system, the healthcare system, all of these are going to transform globally. And we are not good with change as human beings, although it's the one thing that we should be. And essentially the only thing we have to cling on to, the only thing that we have to really come back to is ourselves. So the more that we work on ourselves, the stronger we are. So what happens around us we suffer less with it. Good things are always going to happen in life, bad things are always going to happen in life. How much that hurts us is to do with how much work we do on ourselves and how we end up processing it. So that's what the course is designed to do, is to process with maturity everything you've gone through in this year, so you're not still flailing around in it as we move towards December 21st, which some people are just calling the event because it's so extraordinary. There's a lot of activity that's been talked about it, not only astrologically, but in different layers of energy work. And I'd be really fascinated for you, Hoagie, to tell people more about what Saturn and Jupiter and those two energies and what it means for them to be aligned, especially after what happened on September the 12th, which I think was the last time they crossed paths or were near each other.
Yes. Well, so just before I explain the symbology of the planets and why this is so significant, Helen modestly forgot to mention that she is going to be on the Discovery Network in January 21. Is that correct? Could you just elaborate on that just before I talk about the conjunction?
So yeah, they doing, I can't talk too much about it because of NDAs, but I'm working with a celebrity chef who was a big interest in chocolate. There's a 7-episode series going around the world about chocolate, and they wanted to understand more about cacao ceremonies because they've been around for thousands of years, and when you work with cacao in its purest form, it is completely different to chocolate. It can alter the way that you think and sense. and it can heal you on many levels and open your heart. It's the reason why everybody wants to eat chocolate around the world when they feel sad. It's those effects magnified and last many more hours.
Right.
Essentially, you're unblocking the heart. And so with the cacao ceremony, that is everybody does them slightly differently, because it's the only plant medicine that doesn't come with a very strong, strict tradition of how it's to be worked with. So I have
Right.
my way, and I am on the Discovery Network holding a cacao ceremony and talking to the celebrity chef about it and its benefit.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So, so that is so for viewers who will be catching up with this later, that is something really juicy to look forward to. So, I'll certainly be tuning in to that in January. Right. So, about this conjunction, why it's significant. So basically, we have Jupiter and Saturn coming together, and essentially, what we mean by that is that they're going to come within pretty much an exact alignment. Now, this alignment becomes pretty much perfect on the 22nd, and I mean perfect in terms of when they're actually exact, but they are going to be within 1 degree of each other on the 21st, and that is basically an exact conjunction. Anything within 2 degrees, 2 to 3 degrees even, is pretty much exact. So they're coming together. So what does this mean? These are the planets of society. These are the planets that influence humanity en masse. And they join every 20 years. So to give you an idea of some of the flavor of what might be coming up, the last time they joined together in sidereal Capricorn was in 1961. And we all know what a tumultuous time the 60s were. And many of my new clients and subscribers have actually lived through that time and are actually having their second Saturn return. So for anyone that is 59 going on 60, you are not only having a Saturn return, but you're also having the grand conjunction happen at the same time. So Saturn is what? Saturn is known as the planet of restriction, yeah? Of difficulties, but of discipline. It is the planet of longevity. It is the planet of graft and hard work. It is the planet that gives rewards after we've put the hours in. So, well, Helen, you probably know this, but you know, there's that saying, what is it, 10,000 hours to kind of perfect?
Yeah, to become anybody can become a master in something in 10,000 hours. Yeah, something like
Exactly. So there's that 10,000 hours, and in many ways that's almost like that Saturnian input. Saturn is the planet that gives us our just desserts, or our rewards for our efforts that we put in. So, but he's also very contradictory, because although he is a planet of restriction, he is also a planet of huge change, and particularly when he enters a house, which he's basically done in it was kind of in January earlier this year. Then he retrograded out, and now he's going direct again. And surprise, surprise, when he was going retrograde, the virus abated, and now he's going direct. When he started to go direct at the end of September, the virus started to come back again. So he's very closely connected, but that is part of his job. He's this planet of karma, strife, difficulty, and often brings illness. And this is his season. However, when we learn our lessons and when we do our work, as Helen is saying, the rewards are immense. Jupiter is known as the generous planet, the great benefic, and he is. But really, Saturn is even more generous, because what he does is when he gives his rewards, which can also be financial, for many people it can be financial as well, but it's spiritual and emotional development. Saturn gives us backbone and our ability to endure and survive and have wisdom. So we gain in wisdom, and then we can then share that wisdom with others to help improve their lives. He is also the planet of charity, and he is also the planet of magic. So yeah.
love the M
He
word. It's
covers.
one of my favorite things.
Yeah, he's also the planet of magic. So if we think of Jupiter, what is Jupiter? Jupiter is expansion. Jupiter is joy. Jupiter represents children. Jupiter represents education. Jupiter represents kind of creative projects or legacies that live beyond us. And he's the general all-round jolly planet. So you know, many astrologers refer to him as the Santa Claus, but Jupiter also has his challenging sides, and one of his challenging sides is unrealistic expectations or people that bombast and overpromise. And the other one is greed. The shadow of Jupiter is greed. So what does this mean when these two come together? We've got one planet, which is Saturn, known as the Great Malefic, coming together with Jupiter, which is known as the Great Benefic. So what happens when these two alchemize together? Well, what happens is opportunity. There is a tremendous potential for opportunity because Jupiter brings the opportunities to us, but Saturn alchemizes it and makes it real and makes it last. So you need the two together because we all know, for example, there may be many opportunities that we've been offered in life that maybe we just let pass. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But when Saturn and Jupiter come together, those opportunities that come, we grab it because they cause so much change when they're together. We literally have to go with those opportunities as they come and be very disciplined. So it's a highly, highly manifesting combination. And it's up to us as human beings to use that energy to not only our benefit, but the benefit of the whole world. Because where this combination falls in your chart is, in a way, your public karma or the highest good that you need to perform for others, and the impact of those choices will last for 20 years.
Thank you so much for saying that. I saw some hearts going up. It ties into my work. My work is very intuitive, and I often find when I work with astrologers, they say these things, and I'm like, oh, well, that would be why I designed the ceremony on this theme on that day, and because the information comes through in different ways. But what I was fascinated by is that they are two masculine energies coming together, and this new period that we are moving into is how to, from my understanding, the work I do is the lesson that we as humans need to do is learning how to balance the masculine and the feminine divine energies within each of us. And that's got nothing to do with your sexuality or your gender. It's that the masculine is an energy force that's very yang. It's very much about doing and competition. And the feminine is much more about receiving and fluidity and flow rather than structure. And as a collective, patriarchy has existed because we've only valued one way of being, and we've disregarded, excuse me for the notification, we've disregarded the feminine as having any worth in general. And in fact, women who have had to get ahead have had to only prioritize the masculine energy. And when we bring these into balance internally, we then come into balance not only with the planet, Mother Earth, which is a, we can look at this playing out in how we have disregarded the necessary appreciation of the mother that gives us our ability to eat and live, but also how we interact with each other. And this new phase that we're moving into is this balancing. So it's very exciting to me that this is sort of kicking off, as it were, with two masculine, very strong masculine energies coming together to hopefully create a harmony to bring through that manifestation.
Indeed, yeah. And it is remarkable. It is a remarkable thing because Saturn, very much so, is also the planet of, because it represents structure, organizations, even architecture, even music. Saturn is very closely associated with music as well, because you have to structure the forms and the sounds in order to create something that is harmonious. And what is so interesting now is Saturn also represents governments globally. So he does very much represent that patriarchy that we're all familiar with. But there's something very interesting, because apart from the sun and the moon, all the other planets do double duty. So sun is the divine masculine, moon is the divine feminine, and they always project that energy, because it's kind of like they're singular in that sense. All the other planets have a masculine and a feminine side, and there is an irony with Saturn, which is that Saturn's feminine side is extremely feminine, to the extent that men who have a Capricorn or Aquarius ascendant, because Saturn rules those planets, those signs in old money, they can actually have a very androgynous or feminine look. And many supermodels, yeah, many supermodels also have, yeah, many many supermodels tend to also have either a Capricorn or Aquarius ascendant, because what it does is Saturn is the planet of structure. So he gives great bone structure. You know, if you want good bones, you know, Saturn really kind of helps out with that one. You were really surprised, Helen. What is it that you just said? Sorry, I missed that bit.
No, my ex-partner has huge amounts of Capricorn ascendant energy, has very symmetrical face, used to be a model when he was a teenager, and is incredibly effeminate / androgynous. And I always found that interesting, looking at his Capricorn chart, to be with the effeminate, because I would have thought there would have been more of the, yes, which I'm not so attracted to, the alpha Saturn kind of, do what I say type.
Yeah, it's so funny, isn't it? Because there are these quirks. So why is that? So I should explain. Capricorn is the 10th sign of the zodiac, and refers Capricorn is the 10th sign of the zodiac in the natural zodiac. But we need to remember as well, Capricorn is a feminine sign. It's an earth sign. All water signs and all earth signs are feminine, always. So, but the 10th house is an angle in the chart, and it's the most powerful angle. So although so much of the corporate world has a lot of masculine energy behind it, it is also one of the most manifesting signs and one of the highest expressions of feminine manifestation. But we can feel that a lot as pressure. And there was one thing that I was thinking about the other day, and with these planets, because planets can be exalted in various different things, in different signs. And you've got Mars, which is like the accelerator. Saturn is like the brakes. But for some reason, Mars is exalted in the sign of Capricorn. And I was thinking, what is that? Why is that? And then it dawned on me. If Saturn is pressure and Mars is energy, but yet Capricorn is the most feminine sign, I thought to myself, oh my goodness, that must be childbirth, labor.
Yeah.
When those two come together, it is an extreme experience, isn't it? It's that pressure, but it's also has that very materialistic side, but also a very spiritual side. Capricorn is a very complicated sign with many different layers, and it depends how we manifest that energy. But when we use it in the masculine, shall we say, that's that kind of patriarchal side, which is do as I say, not as I do, strict, harsh, controlling, that can be very much that negative side of Saturn. And how it can express that way in that way. And if we think as well of lockdown, restriction, but all the energies are always playing at once. The planets, they're geniuses, and they express themselves totally all the time, from the worst to the best, and it's up to us at what level we engage in. So
So just
that's a little
add
quirk.
Well, I just wanted to add in how Buddhist that is in its philosophy, in the way that I would look at the way that we live. And as human beings, we would say that we go through the 10 worlds, and they are from hell to Buddhahood, and we all have all of them. And from one to 9, they each have a positive and a negative aspect. So the world of hell, which you may think is like the worst possible times in your life, the benefit of going through that aspect is that you have compassion. You are able to relate to people in suffering. You move out of judgmentalness. You move out of pity. You understand that life is not just for living yourself. And so we all have these different ways of being, and that we look at the whole, all of it is available to us, all of it is going on throughout our body, throughout our mind, throughout our being, every moment of the day, and we're constantly pinging around. And it's exactly the same with the planets constantly moving around us as well.
Exactly. And it is an extraordinary time, because we have this massive reset that is going on, because Jupiter expands things and can actually even blow things out of proportion. Because there's an important thing as well with this conjunction, is that we also have Pluto that has been giving his influence on this as well. Now, it's very interesting in terms of the planetary relationships, because Pluto is technically the son of Saturn. But in the mythology, Saturn, Kronos, ate his children, because he believed that he was given a prophecy that he would be overthrown by one of his children. So he started eating them. And Pluto, or Hades, was the first one. Another one that he tried to eat was Jupiter, or Zeus, as he's also referred to. And when his mother gave birth to him, in order to stop him being eaten, his mother gave Kronos a sack of rocks, and he ate that. And Zeus was then put on Mount Olympus and raised by these kind of attendants to the gods, and he eventually overthrew his father. So in a way, we have father and son coming together. So there is also a certain rebelliousness to this conjunction, because Saturn, Jupiter not only expands, but there is that rebel aspect, that fire energy, because Jupiter rules Pisces, which of course is the universal unconscious and unity consciousness, but he also rules Sagittarius, which is fire, initiation, being passionate about our beliefs. So you can see when it's almost like the old meets the new, and the energy can be very much like out with the old, in with the new. So it can be very uncomfortable. And what happens is because we tend to become more Saturnian with time, we tend to get more embedded into our habits. When these young upstarts come along with their revolution and stuff like that, what happens? You get pushback. On top of that, we've got Mars as well, that's throwing in one of his aspects too, and he represents youth and rambunctious energy. So there is a lot going on. So it's a combination of expansion and contraction. But with Pluto, what Pluto does is, Pluto is a bit like a hand grenade. He was discovered in the atomic age, and he loves to blow things up in order that we undergo the most profound transformations. So he's throwing his sixpence worth in there as well. So there's a bit more to this conjunction than meets the eye. And I'll tell you something as well. On the inauguration day, I think we've got 5 planets. I think we've got 5 planets in Capricorn. So this really is something that is just off the charts.
Yeah. And another thing that I'm just reflecting on is the 1st of November just coming up is actually the beginning of the Celtic wheel of the year. So the Celtic wheel
Really?
of the year starts by going through into darkness. So if you think about more how we in the West look at the new year starting, sort of going into spring. So it's like, oh, you're out there, you should be doing things straight away. But actually, if you think about the process of creativity and of
Mm.
like gestation, actually going into the darkness first before the creativity comes or the change starts to emerge is a
Wow.
more helpful way of looking at the cyclical year. And in terms of then
Yeah.
reflecting the presidential election, there's that period, isn't there? There's that huge hiatus before they're sworn in, inaugurated, all of that.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
tough. So it mirrors it in much more accurately.
Wow, that is fascinating. And before we talk on some of the pillars, there's one thing, something little juicy that I want to put in there, and this is something that Diane mentioned on her channel, on her tarot channel. She said there is an Indian curse, an American Indian curse that was put on the presidency, which is that whenever it's got a 20 there, or it's divisible by 20, something odd or maybe potentially unpleasant happens to the person who wins on that day. Yeah. So it's going to be very interesting. But in the brief little thing talking about Kamala Harris, when I look at her chart, she could break the curse. So there is a lot to play for. There is a lot going on. It's very karmic. We are in very strong energetic times. This is partly also as well why we're feeling so insecure, because every foundation is being shaken, and particularly as well when Saturn is in his own signs, which he will be for 5 years, because in old money, he rules Capricorn, but also Aquarius. And he spends 2.5 years in each sign, and Capricorn and Aquarius are back to back. So he's in charge for 5 years. So over the next 5 years, which will come as no shock to Helen, but I'm sure many other people, oh, sorry, I'm getting all these thingy bobs coming in, people sending me messages. We're going to be going through a lot of restructuring to society, governments and banking and monetary system over the next 5 years, because Saturn and Jupiter also cover finances. Now, as I did say before, I do have a consultation that's very soon, but let's do a quick whistle stop tour over trust. So trust yourself and know the universe has your back, Helen, and then I'll add a little bit.
Okay, so essentially, everything we have had so much to make us feel unsafe and that we can't trust the world right now. You might look at the political choices that are being made. You may feel that you can't trust your body, because do you have the virus? Don't you have the virus? Are you passing it on without knowing it? There's all this in like what news sources are trustworthy. This feeling of feeling very unsafe in the world. Essentially, I have never known it. I don't think it's ever been so strong, the sense of mistrust. And we're seeing that in different ways with people reporting on their neighbours and things like this, all sorts of levels of trust. And I'm saying this without judgment. This is just what we're being confronted with. And what the lesson in there is that we're being asked to do is to dig deeper, to trust ourselves. Because if you can trust yourself that you can cope no matter what, not only cope but thrive, and that you have to go through a journey with that. It's not about being happy clappy and thinking over, something bad happens and instantly you can be okay about it. We have to go through an emotional wave with dealing with it. But essentially, when you know that you can trust yourself, and that I'd say a lot about that, then you also start to realize a deeper relationship with the universe, and that the universe is here to support us, and that when the tough times happen, we can alchemize that into living a bigger, broader spectrum of emotions, so that in some ways, the more you suffer, the happier you can be. Your bandwidth as being a human being expands, and you get more colors on your palette, and then you get to appreciate them all more.
Oh, that is
essentially. But
beautiful. That is a beautiful analogy. So if we think in terms of we can, in terms of the planet Jupiter, that has a lot to do with faith and surrender as well, in terms of that trust. So trusting in the universe, definitely with this conjunction, when we focus on the meanings and the energy of Jupiter, that could certainly help that. So grief. Let's cover grief. I know it won't necessarily be a quick answer, but do your best.
okay. So we can have grief not just about people who've passed, but we can have collective grief for what we're doing to the planet. And there is, you can have grief about dreams that you feel you haven't fulfilled. You can have grief about, elements of yourself that haven't been embraced in your life. And when we have to, with grief, you can't rush your healing. There are processes and waves of emotion that you have to move through. Like I think what we're seeing with what we saw with the Black Lives Matter movement coming up this summer, and the same with Me Too, is that when people are denied their grieving, it surfaces in other ways. So
Yes.
we have to allow space for our grief to be, and some grief, like African tradition says, it requires a village to hold. Like for somebody, if they lose a child or something like that, it requires the village to hold the space for that person to have the courage and the strength to process that grief. And in the West, I think we are very, very bad in general with spending time to grieve and to look into the abyss of what that is. And I went through a big grief this year. Right at the beginning of lockdown, I had 2 back-to-back, and actually being on my own throughout the lockdown allowed me that time. So although it wasn't comfortable, I have done a lot of processing that would have taken much longer if I'd been in my normal, very busy life.
Yes,
So
yes.
going to be looking at where you are ready to let go of grief, not grief that is unprocessed, but I can give tools to help that. But within the course, we'll be looking at where we can let go of energy that is stagnating in our system that we no longer need to carry around. And because awareness is half the healing. As soon as you can articulate something and bring it out of the subconscious, you're able to move it through with much more grace and ease.
Yes, and I think that is something that many people tuning into this video, once it's actually up and posted on YouTube, can relate to that, particularly as well, as we can imagine places where the death toll has been very high. A lot of people have been not only dealing with grief, but like you said, multiple grievings at the same time. So let's talk about power, abundance, healing, and then love and joy. So I know that's a big one there, because I think, my client is sending me a message like, where are you?
Okay, I'll be very swift. Essentially, understanding
power.
our relationship. Power, yeah, understanding our relationship with our own power, because that word in itself has a lot of connotation, especially throughout a patriarchy. So we often move away and don't feel comfortable with our own power. But until we do, we find it very difficult to have boundaries. And when we are not in our own power, it's very difficult to manifest. It's very difficult to make change and attract things to you, because you're not in your total alignment energetically with what you're capable of doing, and you're not connected to the earth, so you can't bring things through and birth them out, whether they be physical or ideas, homes, all those sorts of things, relationships. Abundance again leads on from this, because it's about not just wealth, but it's about friendship and health and being in right relation with the seasons, almost, of like, when do you let go, when do you bring in? And again, this relates to trust, because when we don't trust the world, we want to hoard, we want to reject, we want to keep safe and not let anything in, or we want to sort of purge things out. So spending time in nature is brilliant for healing your system and getting in right relation with giving and receiving.
And Saturn is nature as well, by the way.
Oh,
Unspoilt nature is Saturn. And things like raw foods, things like veganism and stuff like that, also Saturn. Just so you know. I mean, I mean, I'm not saying to everyone go out and eat bark, but there is a reason why. There is a reason why nature is so healing, because it's unspoilt. So it's one of the highest vibrations of Saturn. If you go and stand at a beautiful lake, or if you're in a beautiful forest and you just absorb it in, think of how much that helps your grief or struggling and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So I just put that in. So forgive me for interrupting. So we did, was that abundance that we did?
That was abundance, yes. Also,
And
I
now
drop in.
healing.
Yep, nature is already in 5D. If anybody resonates and the dimensional shifts we're going through, it can help us
Yeah.
assimilate energy. Healing the body and our relationship with it. We have, you know, you hear about people now, teenagers going into plastic surgeons asking to look like their
Oh,
filter. There are so many levels. I mean, that's one
oh,
extreme. There are so many levels about how we relate to our human body, and talking about the ascension of 3D to 5D. I'm doing this very quickly. If you don't know what that means, come and check out my page and my lives. I can talk more
oh
about
yeah.
it.
Helen knows about it all. She's got the whole thing.
Yeah, subscribe, like, all that stuff. Essentially, it is our body that is having to process all the changes that are happening this year. Our eternal beingness, our soul, our essence, our multidimensional self, whatever word works for you, is already doing it, has done it. It's the body that physically has to go through it. And it's also, if we look at the health karma that's coming up at the moment, it's our body that is processing that change. So it's about understanding, coming in right relation to the messages our body gives us, and also healing parts of our body that we don't love, and learning a very different way to be with it. It's one of my most favorite. Love doing that work with people. It's so transformational, and it can be very fast. And then finally,
Wow.
love and
Love and
joy,
joy.
because we all want more of that. And love is the strongest force in the universe. It's you know, it counteracts fear every time, and it is abundant and never ending within us. And when we clear out, when we have the courage to look at the shadow parts of ourselves, the parts of ourselves we try to conceal either from ourselves or other people, we make space for more to come in, so we can expand greater swathes of love through us and then out to the world. And by doing that, we change the reality with which we live, and also with which others receive us, and then we attract to us greater, more enjoyable things. And that is how we will transition everybody out of this intensity that this year has been.
Yes, well, that was wonderful, and that is brilliant. So just so everybody knows, so if you've liked this video, please like and share and subscribe. When I post this video, I'm going to put up the links to Helen's website and the course that she's doing. It's a wonderful course, and I highly recommend it. So that will all be put in the description below, and also as well, when this is, because I think also as well, it will also show up on Facebook as well. We have to do so much on the hoof. And if there's one thing I want to quickly add to that, to those pillars, I'm going to put in there forgiveness. That's a big one. So maybe that could be the theme of our next video, because I don't want to be too late for my client. We will definitely collaborate again. Sorry for the hitches at the start, but Mercury retrograde, and all of us have been fussing and fiddling with all sorts of types of tech and stuff like that, and sometimes it doesn't always go right. So just so you know, again, this is Helen Miller. She is a cacao specialist. She is a shaman of extraordinary powers. She will be on the Discovery Network in January 2021. Of course, can't go into full disclosure about that yet, but that is something to look out for. I'm sure it's going to be very juicy and very entertaining, and maybe at some point I can do some cacao with you. Never done it before. So with that, thank you so much for Helen for joining me today. Any last comments before we hop off?
No, absolute pleasure as always, Hoagie. I don't use the word shaman about myself, but if you want to, and yeah, I do one-on-one work as well, and a whole host of guide channeled meditations and all sorts of things. It's been lovely. I would love to talk to you about forgiveness. I've held ceremonies on forgiveness before. It's a very important
Oh,
topic. So
very. So that would be definitely the subject of our next video, and maybe we'll have a little bit more time next time. So we'll be
yeah,
collaborating again, of course. So thank you so much. Thank you, Helen, for sharing your knowledge with us, and I will see you soon.
yeah. Bye, Hope. You have a great night, and everybody, thank you
Cheers.
for
Thank
listening.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye,
Mwah.
bye, bye.